I want to give a quick shout out to my patrons. Thank you so much for your support. Hey y'all, it's Kay from the Literary Apothecary, and welcome back to my channel. Again, as I keep apologizing, the lighting is off today because I'm filming at a later time than I usually do, and it's still rainy and dark because this past couple days we had Hurricane Ian go through. Everything is safe here. We just had a ton of rain and some wind, and we're still getting some of that rain residue from Ian moving through North Carolina. So it's dark outside and it's a little, I've got all the lights on in here, but it's still dark in here. So my lighting is a little bit off today, but I wanted to be sure to get these videos filmed for you all. So we push on even though we don't have optimal lighting, because that's what we do here at the Literary Apothecary. So without further ado, today we're going to be talking about, we're going to do my September wrap up, my October TBR. Stay with me because there's a lot to talk about here. Because in September, I read 12 books and one essay. 9 of those books were 5 stars and only 2 were 4 stars. It was a great month for the 5-star strumpet. And also, you'll notice as I talk about each one of the books that I read in September, a great month for fantastic characters. So I'm just going to talk really quickly about each of the books that I read in September, give a very short summary, like a 1-sentence review on each of the books and let you know what I rated it, and then we'll move on to my October TBR. So in September, I read Middle Game by Shauna McGuire. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. I loved the characters, the story, and the magic. The characters hit me to the core in a way that I haven't had happen in a long time. I also listened to the audiobook of The Folklore of Discworld, Legends, Myths, and Customs from the Discworld with help from Planet Earth. This one I gave 5 out of 5 stars. I thought it was so much fun to see the myths and legends of Discworld and fiction and fantasy, and to see their real life influences and also their fictional influences. I read The Maid by Nita Prose. This one I gave 4 out of 5 stars. I thought the main character, Molly, was absolutely fantastic. She was so relatable, the most relatable character in that whole book. Although there were some other characters that I really liked, like the doorman, Mr. Preston. He was a cinnamon roll. Legends and Lattes. This one I also gave 4 stars, so that gets our 4 stars out of the way. This book I read as the pick of the month for shelf space, and I really loved the characters here, especially the baker. I forget his name, Thimble, I think was his name. He was adorable. I wanted to take him home with me so I could have baked goods, but also just his adorable company. Then I finished Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, the illustrated edition. This one I gave 5 out of 5 stars, and y'all, there is no other way to reread the Harry Potter series other than the illustrated editions. They were just so good. They did not disappoint me. After that, I read To Kill a Mockingbird. This was another reread for me. This one I gave 5 out of 5 stars. This is a favorite classic of mine. Still one of my favorite classics. Still life-changing. Still made me cry at the same places. And I just am amazed at what Harper Lee did with her prose in the 1960s. It was absolutely phenomenal. A Day in the Life of Marlon Bundo. This I gave 5 out of 5 stars. This one's an adorable children's book about a bunny who's gay, and he has glasses, and this is part of my banned books readathon TBR, and I can't imagine kids' lives without Marlon Bundo. Next up is also another book that I've read, part of my banned books TBR. That is Stamped: Racism, Anti-Racism, and You. This I gave 5 out of 5 stars. This is actually a YA adaptation of the original adult version of this book called Stamped, written by Ibram Kennedy. This was adapted by Jason Reynolds, and the way that he broke down these very hard concepts of race and racism and anti-Semitism and abolitionists and segregationists in a way that teens can understand no matter what your race is was just so well done. This is a book that I feel like everyone should read at some point. And we're almost at the bottom of my read list. Next up we have Lord John and the Private Matter, which I gave also 4 stars. So I guess my 4-star count is 3 4-stars because I can't count. This, I loved seeing Lord John Grey in a different setting other than our main Outlander setting. And in this book, we had 2 different mysteries, 2 different stories going along, and the way that Diana Gabaldon brought these together in the end was masterful. Next up, we have Jade Legacy, the final book in the Green Bone Saga by Fonda Lee. This one, of course, I gave 5 out of 5 stars. I absolutely loved this book. It was not perfect. There were things that I did not think were done perfect, but that ending, the last like 200 pages of that book were just incredible. I cried so much reading that book, and my heart was literally racing when I was reading that book. It was so good. Next up, we have The Great Gatsby graphic novel adaptation, and this I also gave 5 out of 5 stars. And I loved this new way of rereading a favorite classic. Speaking of favorite classics, the last book that I finished in September was Beloved by Toni Morrison. I gave this one also 5 out of 5 stars. This was, like I said, another favorite classic reread. And the way that Toni Morrison writes about slavery and racism is so realistic. Of course, slavery and racism are real. They happened. Racism still happens in this world. But she writes it in such a way that you can, no matter what race you are, no matter what era you're reading this in, you can place yourself in the characters' positions and feel the pain and the anxiety and the angst that these characters are going through. And she just has a way with words that just awes me every single time. So now let's talk about the carryovers that I'm bringing from September into October. So one of the things that I didn't mention in my September wrap up is that I've read now 2 out of the 3 short stories, novellas, in Lord John and the Hand of Devils. This is a collection of, I think, 1 short story and 2 novellas. I've gotten through 2 out of the 3, and I hope to finish the last one, read the last novella in October, and finish off that book, Lord John and the Hand of Devils. Right now, I'm making my way through Lord John and the Brotherhood of the Blade, which is a longer novel about Lord John, and this is getting really interesting because we're hearing about characters that we've heard about, characters and moments and scenes, important scenes that we learned about in the original Outlander series. So we're seeing these moments that we already know about through Lord John's perspective, and that is really fascinating to me. I also started yesterday of Mice and Men because my ebook hold came through from the library early in the morning before I had to go into work, and I was like, you know what, why not start Of Mice and Men free read, because that's also one of my favorite classics, and you know, I need something like that. And I am still making my way through House of Salt and Sorrows. This is getting really spooky, and I'm enjoying this YA book. And then this morning, I couldn't resist myself, and I added another book to the TBR because the audiobook for Razorblade Tears by S.A. Cosby came available at my library, and I've been waiting for this audiobook since August, so I had to scoop it up. Even though I don't really have room on my TBR for it, I had to go for it and start it. So those are the books that I'm carrying over into October. Hey y'all, okay, so now I'm back here with my October TBR. My battery died yesterday in the middle of filming, and then I went to bed while my battery was charging. So now I'm back in the daylight, so the lighting is much better because the sun is out. It's a beautiful breezy day today. So I'm back with my October TBR, and let's just get right into it. So in October, October 1st, of course, I started Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets Illustrated Edition, which is a buddy read with my friend Leslie at the Nerdy Narrative and a couple other people that are joining along. We've got Guns of Dawn by Adrian Tchaikovsky. This is a buddy read with my best friend Stacy and Channing, and this, according to Alan at the Library of Alexandria, is Sharps meets Jane Austen meets Downton Abbey. So I am so excited to read this. I've heard such great things about this. I can't wait. Then we've got Lord Jim by Joseph Conrad, which is a buddy read with Christy Louis Dostoevsky in space. And so the crew is shipwrecked. They're rescued by a British ship, but then the truth comes out about their crew. This is a bibliotherapy recommendation for one of the 10 best novels for 80-something, and I can't wait to read this with Christy. Then we have Bruno, Chief of Police by Martin Walker. This is number 1 in this series, and this was my Patreon pick of the month for October, picked by my best friend Stacy. This is about a policeman, Bruno. He's the only one in the town, and he's a former soldier. It's a mystery and a crime, and I can't wait to see what this is all about. Stacy said I have to read this, so she's not the only one that's read this book. Then we have 12 Blades in Contempt by Jordan Darnett, and this is a self-pub book. They put out a feeler on, I think it was Twitter or Instagram. I said, yeah, I'm definitely interested. And they sent me a physical copy of it, so I can't wait to read that and review it. This is a medieval Japan-inspired progression, epic fantasy, mixing elements of the Cradle series, Rage of Dragons, and the Poppy War, and it just sounds so darn good. Another self-pub book that I'll be reading is Handful of Souls by Stephen Rice. This is book 1 in the Split Seas series. This is Mud Gold Lies. That's all you'll get in Branagh. You'll find no better expert in these things than Lily Cale Telworth. Yet she has no clue of the events already in motion around her. And that sounds really good. I've heard good things about this, and I can't wait to get into that. Next up, we have The Echo Wife by Sarah Gailey. This is the Wine and Crime Book Club with Leslie at the Nerdy Narrative. This is our pick for this month. It's a sci-fi thriller mystery and a wife that is a clone. So I can't wait to read this. And then for part of another spin-off of the Books My Boyfriend Gave Me series, I'm going to be reading the Gears of War series. Now this is a book series that's, I think, based off of the video games or vice versa. I can't remember which way is which. It's written by Karen Travis, and I can't wait to read this because John is very excited for me to read this and hear all about it. And this is one of his all-time favorite video games, so I can't wait to read this series. And the last book that I hope to definitely read in October is Strangers in a Promised Land by Jim Milbourne. This is a novella for the Continua Chronicles series, which book 1 was Seventh Cadence, and this weekend I will be interviewing Jim Milbourne on my channel here on Saturday the 8th. I can't wait to talk to him about it. So that's my if I somehow get through all of these books, then I hope to move on to The Coward and the Warrior by Stephen Arion, because I've wanted to read those books for so long, and I got the ARC copy of book 2, The Warrior, from a friend, and I can't wait to read those. I need to read those. So I'm hoping to get to those also in October, but likely I may not. Yeah, that is my October TBR, my September wrap-up. Let me know in the comments below, y'all, what was your favorite reading moment from September, and what book are you looking forward to reading the most in October? As always, my Patreon and my Discord information will be in the description below. There's no pressure to join either, but we have a ton of fun at both. Keep reading, and I love you all to the moon and back. Bye.